ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Chiefs, Falcons, the Kansas City Chiefs remain undefeated as they get the win 22-17 over the Atlanta Falcons. Interesting strategy by the Falcons late in this game. Had a couple of cracks at it. I don't think I blame them necessarily for going for the victory, but sometimes, and I've watched this a lot, the NFL is becoming more and more aggressive. Teams are turning down scoring opportunities, and, sometimes it pays off and other times it doesn't. I think every situation is different, and you have to be able to go with the flow, and you can't just rely heavily and solely on analytics. You can't just rely on, your gut. You got to go with how the flow of the game is going, and, time, circumstance, all of that stuff needs to be factored in to the equation. But for the kind of game that it was, just felt like they should have taken the points the first time they were down there. That would have set them up in a position to now only need a field goal to win. They got the stop that they needed, and maybe the Chiefs go about it a little bit differently if they're trailing in the game or if they're nursing a 2-point lead, knowing that all the Falcons would have needed was a field goal. Maybe they are a little bit more aggressive in their play calling. Who's to say? But I would love to apply that type of game pressure on Kansas City and see how they handled it, And I watched a lot of teams, the Eagles-Saints game in particular, the teams turning down scoring opportunities left and right. And it boggles the mind sometimes. And when you see what the outcome of the game is and, how the difference in the game is 3 or 4 points, you take field goals a couple of times, you might actually win the game, right? And this is one of those situations with Atlanta. But again, that's nor here nor there. To the victors go the spoils. Let's talk about the now 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs as they get it done 22-17 over the Atlanta Falcons. And, watching this game, the thing that continues to amaze me with the Chiefs is they just find ways to win. And that's what the best teams in this league do. And I've talked about this ad nauseum. It doesn't have to be pretty, and this was not a pretty victory. Last week's win was not a pretty victory, right? Hell, you could even argue that their week 1 victory over the Ravens was not aesthetically pleasing, but they were all dubs, and they all have been stacked in the left-hand column, and you move on, right? There were times tonight where I didn't think they were going to win the game, and I told my sister is a Falcons fan, and I told her before this game started, you guys got a shot. I think, I wrestled back and forth as to whether I was going to pick the Chiefs or the Falcons tonight. I think this is the game that I spent probably the most time on. There were 2 or 3 games. The Lions and Cardinals was another one that I spent a lot of time on, thinking about back and forth, what should I do, kind of wrestling with the decision-making process. And I ultimately just landed on, hey, look, man, until somebody dethrones the Chiefs, until somebody beats them, you got to just keep rolling with the hot dice, right? The Chiefs are hot dice. And you're just going to keep rolling them until they crap out. And so although this felt like the type of environment, this felt like, a team coming off of a momentous win in the, Atlanta Falcons over the Eagles, this could be the spot where they get got. No Pacheco. Want to see how they kind of adjust to having no Isaiah Pacheco in their first game without him. And Carson Steele came in and was solid tonight. I don't know how much longer they can get away with that. They came into the season with a lack of running back depth. And I did find out something tonight I did not know, that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was still around and was placed on a, I think it was a non-football, like an injury, illness list or something to that effect we saw tonight, and that he'll be available potentially for the Chiefs in week 5 after spending the first 4 weeks on that list that he's currently on. And that'll help a lot. They could use some help at the running back position. Obviously, they signed Kareem Hunt to the practice squad. Don't know how long it's going to take him to get up to speed and get, back into playing shape, things of that nature. But they don't really have anybody that scares you at the running back position. with Isaiah Pacheco out, and he does so many different things for this team. But what I am continuing to be amazed at is they had really no contributions from Travis Kelce in the first 3 weeks of the season. This guy went from essentially being, what felt like 60 to 70% of their offense to non-existent the first 3 weeks, and yet they've won all 3 of these games now. Week 1, and it's different guys every week, it feels like. Week 1, it was the Isaiah Worthy show, right? I gotta stop calling him Isaiah. What is this man's first name? Something Worthy. You guys know him. I gotta stop calling. I keep calling him Isaiah because of Pacheco. His name is not Isaiah. Xavier is his name. Xavier Worthy. Week 1 was the Xavier Worthy show, right? He burst onto the scene, touchdowns galore. We're all going crazy. Oh my God, he's the new Tyreek Hill. He really hasn't done anything since, right? The next week against the Bengals, right? It really was the defense stepping up. Mahomes was awful, right? He was one of the worst games statistically of his NFL career. 2 interceptions, very low completion percentage, didn't throw for 200 yards. I mean, it was really a forgettable performance by Mahomes, but the defense had a scoop and score, and they were able to get critical stops when they had to, and they were able to somehow steal that victory, get it done, and move on, right? Then this week, it's the Rashee Rice game, right, where he just goes bananas. He has 12 catches in this game for 100 and whatever yards, and they just didn't have an answer for him. And I just think about the impact that Rashee Rice has had in the first 3 games of the season. He was spectacular in week 1 versus the Ravens. He was huge tonight. Excuse me. And I just think about, where would this Chiefs team be without Rashee Rice? Thinking about all the things that he went through in the offseason and how we thought this kid might ultimately be suspended. He might not even be playing for the first 4 to 6 weeks with all the trouble he's gotten into this offseason. Could you imagine where they would be without him right now? They're definitely not 3-0, that's for sure. So he was huge tonight, obviously. And they found ways to get it done without Travis Kelce really being a huge participant in the offense. He came into this game with 4 catches on the season. What did he have? 2 or 3 more catches tonight? So through 3 weeks, this guy's got maybe 7, max 8 catches. He had a big third down that he didn't corral. That was a great play by Jesse Bates III, but he didn't corral that. He's really been a non-factor, and they've had to find other ways to win. And tonight, it was really the defense and Rashee Rice. And I remember saying, after losing L'Jarius Sneed, there's no way, and having to move the best nickel corner in the league outside, right? I said, there's no way that the Chiefs are going to be the defense that they were a season ago. And after 3 weeks, they may not be as dominant as they were a season ago. And you can see that there's some guys that they're going to have to rely on, that are going to have to grow up very quickly. Number 13 we saw at the end of this game. I don't know his name. I'll be learning it very quickly because it looks like he's going to be getting some meaningful snaps here. But he's a young corner, and they've got several other guys that are going to have to grow up, come of age here quickly, because they're going to need these guys. Yet they still find a way to get it done. And boy, did that unit look good tonight, holding the Falcons to 17. And it's not like the Falcons have been lighting up the scoreboard. They scored 10 in their season debut with Kirk Cousins, right? In their season opener. They only scored 2 last week against Philadelphia, and they shouldn't have scored that. They should have been stuck on 15 in that game and should have lost 21-15. And then they scored 17 tonight. So it's not like they're lighting up the scoreboard, but they're capable. And when they had to have stops, they got it. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about that, sequence there at the end where they decided to, run a toss there at the end. But that's a great stop by Nick Bolton. And Every time I see him make a play, I just smile, but I also say he should have been in Washington, right? Like he was there for the drafting, and somehow we managed to botch that situation. And he's such a good football player. Is Nick Bolton, and he's a stud, man. And when they needed him the most, and that's how I feel about this Chiefs team, is when they need certain guys the most, when they need Chris Jones the most, he shows up. When they need Nick Bolton the most, he shows up. When they need Patrick Mahomes the most, he shows up. Guys just find a way to make plays when they have to be made, and you get yourself into that, 4th and 1 situation. It's really 4th and inches. I feel like half of the, wasn't even a full yard they needed. And I felt like it was an overcorrection by the Falcons in that situation. So last week against the Eagles, when they needed a yard, what did they try to do? They tried to slam it up in the middle. And I know that the strength of the Eagles defense is right up the middle. They can be had everywhere else. But if you try the Eagles down the middle of their defense, good luck. You're going to need it, because they're as stout as you will find in the NFL down the middle of their defense. And they tried to run into the teeth of that defense and got denied last week by CJ Gardner-Johnson. And so I think they overcorrected this week, saying, you know what, we got denied going up the middle. Our strength is outside zone. We got athletic offensive linemen. Let's run this sweep outside. Let's run this toss and get on the edge, get on the perimeter. We think we can get a yard. And Nick Bolton said, no, not on my watch. And that's a big-time stop. Again, Mahomes was solid tonight. He wasn't great. Having watched back the replay on that 3rd down prior to the Falcons getting it back for the final time, it looked like Xavier Worthy pulled up. It was just a miscommunication. And this is what happens when you got young receivers and you're trying to figure it out on the fly. He keeps going there. It's probably completion. But he kind of slowed up, and Mahomes was thrown to a spot. He didn't get to the spot, and so it just fell harmlessly incomplete to the ground. And normally I'm used to the Chiefs converting in that situation and not even giving the ball back to their opponent. And, they had to punt, and the defense had to stand tall. And look how many penalties they had on that final drive by the Falcons. So they literally aided them in their pursuit of the game-winning touchdown. I mean, you got a hands-to-the-face penalty, you got pass interference, you got horse collar tackle. I mean, they did everything in their power to give the Falcons all the ammunition they needed to try to win this game. And still, when it came down to 4th and 1 and they had to have it, they got it done. And that's what the best teams in the league do, is they find a way to get it done. And so hats off to the Chiefs. And what's crazy is I was down on Spags' defense in week 1 because I thought they kind of let the Ravens off the hook a little bit easier, because I didn't think Spags was as aggressive as he was tonight. But then I remember thinking about this to myself as I was saying it out loud. I said, you know what? He probably realized I don't want to blitz Lamar Jackson, because if he breaks that first wave, we're doomed, right? We're cooked. We can't let Lamar, get out of the pocket and just run. So we'll play it safe against him, because there's a different level of respect that comes with playing against Lamar Jackson. He was aggressive. They came after Kirk's ass tonight. I mean, they were throwing up blitzes, right? Kirk will be seeing blitzes in his sleep. They were coming with 6- and 7-man pressures consistently to end this game. And Steve didn't give a shit. He was sending everybody. Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, Jamari Connor. Like, he didn't give a shit. Like, he was sending everybody. So I think you can see Spags kind of revving up that engine, gaining a little bit more confidence in some of the young guys that had to step in, and with all the changes, starting to get a little bit more comfortable with dialing up blitzes and putting some of these guys on islands. I mean, Kirk had a shot, to Drake London on a young corner, and he missed. Now, there was pressure because Spags brought the heat, right? He turned it up. And so Kirk couldn't just step into the throw. He was kind of throwing off of his back foot there, and he couldn't get it to him. And so there were opportunities. Was that pass interference on that Second to last Falcons drive on that third down. Yeah, it was. James Cook never turned and located the football. Was face guarding essentially. Was there early. But we see that every week in the NFL. Plays don't get. That's not why the Falcons lost the game. Their inability to make plays when plays had to be made was a reason they didn't win this game. And on the flip side, that's why the Chiefs won the game. When plays had to be made, they found a way to make the plays, and that's why they're 3-0 right now on the season. I don't love their running back position, but it'll get better, right? At some point, they'll get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. At some point, you'd like to think that they'll get Isaiah Pacheco back. And at some point, probably sooner rather than later, they'll get Kareem Hunt up to speed and he'll be out there. And so they'll be fine at running back. That was one of the few things that I had an issue with. They've been having a sort of a revolving door at left tackle between Suamataia and Wanye Morris. Looks like that's settled now, and Morris looks to be the new left tackle there. And I thought he was solid tonight. He wasn't great, but he was solid, and you'll take that. He'll continue to grow in that position. And so, you look at this Chiefs team, and that injury, because what I thought they were going to be this year was vastly different than what they were a season ago, which was this high-octane offense, because they were supposed to have Hollywood Brown. And they're missing that element because Xavier Worthy just isn't ready to be that kind of a receiver in his rookie season. And it's not fair to ask him to be that kind of a guy yet. And so Hollywood Brown would have made all the world difference in this offense. And now you're going to have to try to suffice. And, while you're getting massive contributions from my man, I literally was just talking. He had a big game tonight. The receiver from Rashee Rice. While you're getting massive contributions from Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster had a big catch for a touchdown tonight, and that's cool. And every now and again, Justin Watson peeks his head out, and that's cool. It's not the offense that I thought it was going to be. This offense right now resembles more of the offense from last year without Travis Kelce's contribution. Last year, Kelce was massive, right? 7, 8 grabs every week. So far, he's a non-factor, and I say that loosely because he's impacting the game, just not on the stat sheet. But you go into a game defending the Chiefs, the first thing you have to do is find a way to take Travis Kelce away. You're talking about the pass game. So you'd be a damn fool to think that they're not focusing in on Kelce and he's not getting a couple sets of eyeballs when he goes down the field and they're not, really trying to take him away. And that's going to open up opportunities for other guys. But he's not impacting the game from a statistical standpoint. And so this is looking a lot like the offense they had last year where hey, we're going to do just enough offensively. Defense, we're going to need you to close the show because we can't do it offensively ourselves. They had a chance to get one first down and put this game away, essentially, and they couldn't even do that. Hey, defense, need you to bail me out. And the defense did, and that's what they did all the year last year. And so this offense is starting to morph into what it was last year, and that's not a good thing if you're a Chiefs fan, right? You went from looking dynamic in week 1 to less dynamic last week to not dynamic at all this week. And so at this point, the one thing I can say for the Chiefs is, hey, you've built up a callus because you dealt with this all of last year, so you know how to find a way to win in these types of situations when the offense doesn't have its fastball, right? So on one hand, you're like, hey, they're comfortable being uncomfortable. They were here all year last year. But on the other hand, you're like, how long can you keep up this charade? How long can you keep up with all these young players, especially at the cornerback position? With Watson and the kid, number 13 on the other side. I mean, how long are you going to keep this up? I don't know. But it's starting to feel a lot like the offense from a season ago. And while they have, a guy that can run in Xavier Worthy, they're struggling to get him the football. I don't know if you noticed that. Since week 1, they're struggling to get him the ball as a receiver. They tried a deep shot tonight. Mahomes didn't have the best throw on that deep ball. Felt like he was open. And if Mahomes kind of leads him across the field and lets him run to the football, it's probably a touchdown. But Mahomes kind of allowed the defender back into the play. And Mike Hughes made a great play on that football. They've only really been able to get him the ball and get him touches on like shallow crosses, swing passes, and, the reverse or jet sweep type of play, right? They really haven't gotten into him as a receiver. So his impact feels very, very limited right now because of how they can, utilize him. So they were fortunate to get away with it tonight. I think they'll win again next week. I think they have the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, next week. Another winnable football game. We'll take a look at their schedule at some point tonight, kind of see what the road ahead looks like for the Chiefs. You get out of Atlanta with a win. You feel good about finding a way to get it done. And I don't see this offense being able to continue to win like they did tonight. You're going to come up against some teams where they're going to make enough plays offensively. Your defense may not be able to bail you out, and you may not be able to get the dub. If Joe Burrow doesn't fumble last week, and again, got to give credit to their defense for forcing the ball out, scooping and scoring it. If Joe Burrow doesn't fumble last week, the Bengals are probably going to win that game. The Bengals were the better team in that game last week, right? The Bengals outplayed the Chiefs significantly. But as I always say, the Chiefs find a way to win because they make winning plays when winning plays are required. And they did it again tonight, 22-17 over the Atlanta Falcons. When a stop had to be made, they made it. When they needed to get in the end zone, they got stopped a couple of times. They had to settle for field goals. But when they needed to get in the end zone, even without Rashid Rice, who I think got hurt on the snap before, had to come out, Juju Smith-Schuster gets it done. Somebody else steps up and makes a play. And so despite missing the extra point, they were able to find a way to win this game. And they're now 3-0 on the season. And you look around at their division, Chargers are now 2-1. Herbert got hurt today. We don't know the severity of it, but anytime somebody leaves, and we knew he had a foot injury. I think he had plantar fasciitis over the, preseason, right? Training camp, whatnot. So I think he might have re-aggravated that because anytime somebody hurts themselves on a non-contact injury, that's when shit gets dicey. And he left the game, did not return. And the Chargers are really strictly a run team right now. So if you can stop them from running the ball, you got them. That's why I didn't think they were going to beat the Steelers, because I'm like, the Steelers going to shut that run shit down. And they haven't beaten anybody throwing the football yet. And so they're 2-1, but they look to be in a little bit of trouble. Obviously, the Herbert situation is going to play itself out, and that's going to really help determine, what the trajectory of their season could potentially be. But you look at the rest of that division, the Raiders got trampled over today by the Panthers. And the Broncos aren't going to be a good team this year. They got a great win on the road, but they're not going to be a great team. This division is theirs for the taking once again. You just got to find a way to win, take care of business in the division, and they're going to win this division. The question is, can you get it done in the postseason against the likes of a Cincinnati? Because you're probably going to see them again, more likely than not. Probably going to see them again. Can you get it done against a team like that? We'll see, right? Anyway, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, home has not been where the heart has been this season. You're 0-2 at home. You're averaging 13.5 points at home this season in 2 games. You've been dreadful offensively at home. You've had turnovers at home. You have struggled to put together any consistency at home. And not that you were excellent on the road last week at Atlanta or Philadelphia, but you were moving the ball with relative ease and consistency. You just couldn't finish drives in the red zone last week. There was no such luck tonight. You started, the game off like you were going to continue what you had, finished in Philadelphia, which was, an excellent game-winning drive. And you go right down the field, you score in the opening possession, and you're like, oh shit, here we go, right? And then you just, after that, no cohesion, no consistency. And losing offensive linemen will do that to you. They lost a couple of guys throughout the course of the game with injuries. And that'll stifle you real quick, losing guys on the offensive line. And for whatever reason, they couldn't really just get into a rhythm after the opening drive. They couldn't sustain offense. And I said this already. When you have opportunities to get points, they had a chance down there late where they turned down an opportunity, acting as if we may not get another shot, or we're not sure if we can move the football on them again and get back down here. So let's just try to get it done here once and for all. Didn't love the decision there. Take the points, apply pressure to Kansas City, see if you can get a stop. You got all three of your timeouts at that time of the game. If you get the stop, which they ultimately did get the stop. Now, again, if the circumstances were different, you kick the field goal. The Chiefs aren't backed up against their own end zone. They're not starting at their own 6-yard line. Instead, they're starting at 30. Maybe they're a little bit more aggressive. Maybe they do get the first down, and maybe you do have to start using your timeouts, and maybe it doesn't go, the way that you need it to go. But that's the chance I'm willing to take. And at some point, they got to find ways they got too much talent on offense to not be getting a football to some of these guys. I don't understand why it's such a struggle on a weekly basis for them to get the ball to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Pitts had the big catch at the beginning of the game. And you're thinking, okay, maybe this is his breakout game on a big stage, bright lights. Maybe Kyle Pitts finally breaks out and has one of those, 7-catch, 121-yard, 2-touchdown type games, and it leads them to a victory tonight. And he had the 40-yarder to start the game off. I believe he did. Let me check and see. I want to say it was 40 yards to kick this bad boy off. 50-yarder. He had a 50-yard catch on the opening possession for the to set up the touchdown. Man had one catch for 9 yards after that. 2 catches, 59 yards for Kyle Pitts. Meanwhile, Drake London, 6 catches, 67 yards, and most of that damage came late in the ball game. Like the final 2 possessions is when he started to really get active and get busy. He did have the touchdown grab, I want to say, after Pitts's big catch and run. I think he capped that drive off with the touchdown. But if I'm not mistaken. But between London, Pitts, and Bijan, who had 16 carries for 31 yards tonight, and another 2 catches for 21 yards. Between those 3 guys who you spent first-round draft capital on each of them, there's just not enough production here. There's too much talent, and I get it. Kirk just got here, brand new offense. Everybody's getting acclimated to one another. I understand all of that, but you got to find a way to get your best players to football. And there's just too much talent on this team. I love me some Darnell Mooney, and right now he is the most consistent weapon that you have on this team. Is Darnell Mooney right now? Of all of the 3 guys I just mentioned, Pitts, London, and Robinson, Mooney is outshining all 3 of those guys in terms of his connection with Kirk Cousins and their ability to get him the football. He ate up the Eagles last week. He was one of the few options that they got it to against the Steelers in week 1. I mean, that was just a disjointed offensive performance anyway. And he was consistent again tonight, 8 catches, the most catches of anybody on the team, 66 yards. Like, Kyle Pitts had 5 targets tonight. It isn't enough, right? Man had his best season of his career in his rookie season with Matt Ryan, and over 1,000 yards, I may add, in his rookie season. Hasn't even come remotely close to that since. And for the life of me, I can't understand why it's so hard for them to get this man the ball. Like, I just don't understand. Let me see what this man had 1,026 yards in his rookie season on 68 catches. He had 28 catches for 356 in 2022. Obviously, he tore his knee up that year. And so he didn't play the full season, only played in 10 games. But even through 10 games, he only had 28 catches, right? So it's not like he was tearing it up before he got his knee injured. He plays the full season last year, 53 catches, 667 yards. Obviously, they had issues at the quarterback position. And this year, through 2 games, now 3 games, he's got 8 catches for 105 yards. Like, that's the best we can do for one of the most gifted tight ends in the NFL. I mean, make it make sense. Drake London's, I think he's slowly but surely coming along. Him and Kirk are starting to build a rapport, but I think the onus is on the coordinator to put these guys in better positions to be playmakers, especially Bijan. Like, one of the best skills that we saw from Bijan last year was his ability to be a receiver out of the backfield. 2 catches for Bijan Robinson. And I'm not just talking swing screens, a running back screen. I'm not talking that shit. I'm talking about isolating him one-on-one with a linebacker down the field and getting it to him. I'm talking about throwing him the ball on a slant. Like, he's talented enough to run wide receiver routes. And he's got good enough hands to be a playmaker in space down the field. Like, why is he not touching it in that regard? Like, why aren't you isolating him one-on-one with a linebacker and taking advantage of that matchup? I just feel like they're not maximizing their talent right now, the Atlanta Falcons. And this is another example of that. It is early in the season, and I know Kirk just got here, and he wasn't able to move for much of the offseason. And so there's a lot of things that they're still trying to iron out in terms of continuity and kind of really getting this offense to where they want it to be. But this is another example of they're just not doing enough with the talent that they have on offense. 10 points in the game against the Steelers, and while the Steelers defensively are really good, and Kirk really wasn't moving in that game. Obviously, we saw he was compromised still a little bit. It's not enough. It's not enough. Again, last week was impressive offensively. They moved the football up and down the field, but they still couldn't find the end zone consistently, right? And then this week, you start off hot, you get the touchdown on the opening drive, and you go to sleep after that, pretty much, and then I didn't love some of the game management by Raheem Morris against the Eagles last week. I didn't love some of the game management tonight from Raheem Morris. But again, this is his second go around. He's still trying to figure out some things himself. But it's easy to second guess a decision when it doesn't work. But in the way of how things were flowing in this game, I just thought the smart decision there was to take the points. You still had all 3 of your timeouts, and there was still roughly, 4 minutes or so left in the game, I think, when, you got into that situation. So I felt like you take the points, you cut it to a 2-point game, and now you apply game pressure to the Chiefs. Put them in a position where they have to get this first out, because we know Younghoe Koo has a big leg. I was watching that Cowboys-Ravens game, and I'm like, Baltimore has to get this first down, because I've already said that the Cowboys have the cheat code on special teams between Brandon Aubrey and Kevontae Turpin. If it comes down to special teams, you lose. The Cowboys win every time. The man hit a 65-yard field goal today. If all they need is a field goal to tie the game up, all they got to do essentially is get to midfield, and they're in field goal range. So you want no parts of that if you're Baltimore. So you better get this first out. You could have put that type of game pressure on the Chiefs and seen how they dealt with it. Because if we can get to the 40-yard line, Younghoe Koo is probably in field goal range. He hit a 54-yarder that hit the net tonight. The net is every bit of 5 to 6 yards behind the goalpost. So if you're hitting the net on a 54-yard field goal, you probably are true from 58 if you strike it the same way. Why not put yourself in a position where that's all you need at the end of the ball game? Now, again, don't know how things would have gone. Don't know if you would have gotten a stop. Don't know if you would have gotten the football back with ample time, all your timeouts, yada, yada, yada. But sure would have loved to have had the opportunity to find out, not need a touchdown late. But, that's the job of a coach, to roll the dice, to kind of, forge a path for their team. And he decided to go for it. He decided to go for it last week. And I'm not mad at being aggressive. They went for it against the Eagles on 4th and 1. They didn't get it. And ultimately, it looked like it was going to cost them the game. But they were able to win that game because of circumstances benefiting them. And boom, they were able to make some plays. And bam, they won that game. They rolled the dice again tonight. And this time it did not work in their favor. They did not get that extra opportunity. But they got the ball back and they had a shot. And they decided, and I said this earlier, so I don't really need to, belabor this point, but I felt like it was an overcorrection of last week's attempt that they ran up the middle that was, foiled by that Eagles defense. They said, okay, we tried to go up the middle last week. We're going to try to get on the perimeter this week. See how that works. And the Chiefs was like, nah, bro. Ain't happening. Not on our watch. So I said this before the season started. That NFC South is as wide open as it gets in the league right now. Tampa Bay showed you that that shit was a mirage, right? I always say you need to go through the first month of the season before we start crowning people really good. The Saints, same thing, right? That shit was a mirage. Derek Carr is still Derek Carr at the end of the day, right? For a second, we lost our minds like, wait, is this really the same 4 Carr? No, it's the same Derek Carr, right? It's the same Derek Carr. It's the same Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? It's the same. Like, that division is wide ass open. And despite the 1-2 start, I still think the Falcons are the best team in that division. Contrary to popular belief, I still think they're the best team in that division. But they're going to have to find ways to win these types of games that are gritty, grinded out affairs. Right now, they're 1-2 because every single one of their games has been a gritty, grinded out affair. They have not put the pieces of the puzzle together offensively yet. They are not clicking on any cylinders really offensively yet. So it'll be scary if they figure that out and start clicking on offense. And it might take Kirk a little while to get into sync with his receivers and they figure out how to use Kyle Pitts better and they find better ways to utilize Bijan Robinson. But if they can ever figure that out, defensively, I like their team. I like how they play defensively and the way that they play on the defensive side. If you can just get them 24 to 27 points, think about it this way. They scored 24 points in every one of their games this season. They're 3-0 right now. That's how well they're playing defensively. Every single game this season. They scored 23 points in every single one of their games this season. They're 3-0. So their defense is playing ball. And it's not like they're playing the little sisters of the poor. They played the Steelers. I know, not a great offensive team. Don't need to do much offensively to beat them if your defense shows up, and their defense showed up in week 1. But they got field goal to death and lost. Played the Eagles. They're no slouch on offense. I don't, love their defense, and I've talked about that. But offensively, the Eagles are a very good team offensively. Held them to 21 points. Tonight, the Chiefs, look, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be what I thought they had a chance to be going into the season because Hollywood Brown is hurt. And that's a big blow to their offense. But they're still the Chiefs. It's still Patrick Mahomes. It's still that cast of characters. You still got to respect what they are capable of doing on a weekly basis. You held them to 22 points. Like, you're giving yourself a chance defensively. It's all about the offensive side of the football. Can you do enough there? To me, they're still the best team in that division. And I still think it's their division to lose, but they got to get their shit together. You played a tough schedule to this point. All 3 teams that you've played this season were playoff teams a season ago. So it's not like you've come out here and you've dropped the game to some bum that you had no business losing to this season. You played 3 playoff teams, and you had a chance to win all 3 of those games, and you just haven't. Now, you got to do a better job of taking care of home. You're 0-2 at home. And you got to find a way to score more points. But defensively, if this continues, you'll have a shot to win 10, 11 games, which is what I think the Falcons are going to ultimately do when it's all said and done. But got to find a way to win these gritty contests. This might be who you are. You might be playing a lot of these gritty, low scoring type games where you gotta have to grind it out. You got to find a way to end up on the right side of these. You should be 0-3 right now. If we're being honest with one another, you should be winless right now. You're lucky to be 1-2. So you got to figure that shit out and fast, right? Let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. Let me give y'all this quick little reminder. If you're out there, you want your comment read, super chats are the way to get that done. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. If you want to ensure that your comment is read and you want to jump straight to the front of the line, super chats are the way to get that done. I cannot ensure you that we will get to your comment otherwise. So use the super chat function if you want to ensure that your comment is read and we react to it. So with that said, let's get to the comment section and start it off with my guy, Sindeko. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sindeko writes, Tepper is trash. True. He runs this team into the ground. True. Bryce Young has no help. False. His O-line is trash. False. He has no receivers. False. No one could play in this offense. I think you left a word or two out there. False. Bad coaching? No, it was Bryce all along. If you're going to put all of that into one game, because you're still not a good team, right? Who didn't see them being more competitive? Now, did I see you guys going and throttling the Raiders today? No, I didn't. I'm not going to sit here and act like. But you know what this game felt like to me? This felt like when you get an interim coach, that first game, and I talk about this all the time. When you get an interim coach, and that first game you come in and things have been miserable with the last group that was there, and you finally remove that coach, it's like this big burden, this big weight off your shoulders has been lifted. You just go out and you're going to play and you're going to try to win for that interim coach. That's what this felt like. You know, Bryce Young was pulling his team down. I'm not like, we keep going back and forth and we're talking in circles about the same stuff. I've already said that Bryce Young wasn't good and he's crippling it. That wasn't the argument. It's the handling of Bryce Young. I don't know if he can play or not. You've said he can't, and I'm not sure that he can't play. I want to see him somewhere else where the pressure isn't as great as it is when you're the number 1 overall pick, right? And I want to see someone actually nurture this kid, put him in a position to succeed, because that's not what happened in Carolina, okay? That's the issue. You keep talking about the team as it is now. It's not about 2 games into the season. It's about what they've done to him since he got drafted. They did not put him in a position to succeed. I've already said that this team's going to be way better without him. You just put a 14-year veteran in the game. What did you think was going to happen to this team? We saw what happened last year when you put him in. And he went to Seattle and he threw for 300 and whatever yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns and gave you a shot in that game. We know Andy Dalton, and that was with the team in this state last year, and you guys were awful. You were way worse than you are now. And Andy Dalton put up numbers last year. That's not the issue. The issue is organizationally, you guys suck because of your owner, and it doesn't matter who you put at quarterback. It's not going to change that. That's the real issue. So your first couple of sentences here about Tepper running the team into the ground, that's it. That kills everything else. You want to have this be a referendum on Bryce Young? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. You can draft the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, and if you stick him in that organization, you're still going to suck because your owner is the worst in football. And that's the issue. I've lived this. This is why I keep trying to tell you. I've lived this. I've went through what you're about to go through. And psychologically, you don't want to admit that what you're about to go through, there's no getting out of this until the owner is removed from the situation. You can try to convince yourself that the owner said that he's stepping back. You know how many times I heard that from Dan Snyder? You know how many times I heard that he was stepping back? Trust me, Tepper was as much behind the decision to bench Bryce as anybody. So if you think he's stepping back, you're fooling yourself. He's not removing himself from shit. Okay? Here's the issue. You're gonna be much more competitive with the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. Okay, cool. What does that do for you, though? What does that actually do for you moving forward? I mean, your division isn't great, right? Maybe you got a shot this year. Who knows? Right? I know this, when the Panthers show up on our schedule, we better beat y'all ass. And I'm pretty sure everybody else on their schedule is saying the same goddamn thing. When we play the Panthers, we better beat their ass. That's supposed to be a win. I don't give a shit who's that quarterback. We'll see how they play as the season progresses. You won't be getting run over and trampled over like you did the first 2 weeks with Andy Dalton out there. He'll give you a shot on a weekly basis. That's 70% of the backup quarterbacks in this league with the pedigree. If the Colts put in Joe Flacco right now, he might give them a better chance of winning on a weekly basis than Anthony Richardson does, because he can run the offense. That's what you expect from a veteran quarterback. But that doesn't change the fact that you still don't have a franchise quarterback if you don't find out what you have in Bryce Young. And according to you, you already know that he can't do it. He physically can't do it, in your words. Those aren't my words. Those are yours. He physically can't do it. So if he physically can't do it, then you need to get somebody that can. You starting Andy Dalton isn't going to put you in a position. This is the only way you can overcome poor ownership without removing the owner. You have to get a transcendent talent at the quarterback position. A guy that lifts all things in your organization despite being the worst run organization potentially in professional sports, because that's where you're headed. You need one of those dudes. You need Cam Newton all over again. If you're not drafting one, you're not getting that opportunity. And there's some bad teams. The Tennessee Titans are gonna suck this year. Like, you're not gonna end up with the draft capital to probably get that guy, is what I'm saying. If you play Andy Dalton, because you're going to win some games with Andy Dalton. Your division stinks. You're going to win some games in the division, for that matter. Who knows? You might win the division. Who knows what might happen, right? You might win that division at 8-9, for all we know. What does that do for your organization, though? And that's what you got to ask yourself, is winning today was cool. And for those who think that this is all Bryce Young's fault, Bryce Young stinks, like yourself, this was validation for you. You felt good. You patted yourself on the back today. And that's cool. But that's too short-sighted for me. Having gone through what you are about to go through, that's short-sighted. I'm trying to help you see the bigger picture. Because how many more of these days are you going to have this year? I don't know. Again, I would like to assume that your schedule isn't all that tough. Let's look at the Panthers schedule, right? Let's see what you get. Because you might actually have a chance to do some damage. Because I said this last week. Are you actually going to make the playoffs with Andy Dalton? And I might have misspoke. Let's look at your schedule and see. You might have a shot. Who am I to say that you don't have a chance? Let's see. Let's see what you might have a chance to do. All right. So you play the Bengals next week at home. We'll see what the Bengals look like. I think they're about to get hot, starting on Monday night with Washington. I think they're going to run through them, probably do the same thing to you, right? But we'll see. You might be a different animal, and you might be able to take those boys out at home. You got the Bears after that very winnable football game. Then you have the Falcons, and you got the Broncos. This is a very doable schedule. Who's to say? Saints, Giants, right? Chiefs. That's going to be tough. Bucks, Eagles, Cowboys, Cardinals, right? Commanders are in there somewhere, like week 8 or so. So 7 or 8. So what I'm telling you is you'll have a shot in a division that's not great. But what is that? I've been there before, where I try to sneak in or I try to steal the division in a down year. What does that do for you, though? You know what that does? That gets you Andy Dalton as your starting quarterback. Or in our case, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Carson Wentz as your starting quarterback. That's what that shit gets you. You know what we had to do to get Jaden Daniels? We had to bottom out. You had to bottom out. Because guess what? You're going to look around and the Titans going to need a quarterback and the Browns might need a quarterback. It's going to be some teams that end up with lousy records and you're going to look up and you're going to say, well, we could just do what we did last time and trade up. You know who needed to trade up this year? The Giants tried to trade up to get a quarterback. And they couldn't. You know why? Because the teams at the top of the draft needed quarterbacks. This is an every year revolving cycle. Teams are going to need quarterbacks. And so that's kind of the message I'm trying to convey to you. You stuck on Bryce Young. I'm more so talking about the actual, symptoms, right? I'm actually talking about the root cause. You're talking about the symptoms. We're talking about two different things. I'm telling you, like, you got to actually treat the illness, which you can't. And that's the most helpless feeling as a fan. You can't treat the illness. All you can do is try to feel better and treat the symptoms that you get from the illness. You shouldn't even have Bryce Young as your quarterback. You should have drafted C.J. Stroud. Now, I was a Bryce Young guy, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you you made the wrong decision. But here's the issue. Your coach wanted C.J. Stroud. Your coach wanted him. And your owner said, no, you're going to do what I tell you to do. I want Bryce Young. That's why you find yourself in this predicament. And you're going to continue to find yourself in these predicaments. But we'll see what this team does moving forward. And my thing is just trade him. Just move on from Bryce. Just move on from Bryce. See what you can get. While the stock is still high, while there's still some capital to be gained here, get something for him. The team you played today sure could use a young quarterback, because they're going to be in the same spot that you in. They need a quarterback. Who wants to go into their season with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback? I've been there. Shit is not fun to have a journeyman quarterback as your week one starter. It's not fun. You don't think they would love to have a Bryce Young on their roster, developing him, trying to get him up to speed and getting him ready to play? I don't know. We'll see. But good for your Panthers. Way to get off the schneid today. That was impressive. I thought you was going to put up a 40-burger today. Thought you was going to put up a 40-burger today. Had a chance to do so. And now you're 1-2, and you look up, you're one game out of first place. Just like that. With the Saints and the Bucks losing, you're one game out of first place. Who knows what could happen this season? All the shit I was talking, and you could turn around, be 9-8 this season, and win the damn division. Who knows, right? We'll see. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. GT, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, yeah, Nabers, yikes. Boy, he looks good. I was watching the game there. I was like, God, damn, he good, man. That boy good. I said, Jesus. We knew it, though. We knew it when they drafted him. We said, oh. Of all the receivers that came out, the big three of Nabers, Odunze, and Harrison, the one I didn't want in the division the most was Nabers. I could deal with Harrison big ass, right? Harrison Jr., I could deal with his big ass. Yeah, he's a problem, but it's levels to this shit. Odunze is cool, and he's gonna be more like Mike Evans, right? Steady Eddie. Slow and steady wins the race, right? He'll be one of those receivers. He'll be really good, but when we're talking about the best receivers in football, they'll always conveniently leave Rome Odunze out of the conversation, even though he's one of the best receivers in football, right? Nabers is going to be like prime Odell, right? Nabers is going to be like AB, like one of these dudes that has a chance to be a head case. I don't know if he's a head case. I'm not putting that on him. But we know this dude is dynamic, and anytime he touches the football, he's got a chance to, and going into the game, hey, just put him down for 9 to 11 catches for 100 and whatever yards and a touchdown or two, right? He looks like prime AB. He looks like prime Odell. He looks like one of these dudes. Like Odell in his first season missed the first 2 or 3 games and still had like 1,400 yards receiving and 93 catches, I think. Tell me that he don't look like he ready to post 97 catches for 1,600 yards in year 1. He cooked the Browns. That's a good Browns defense. It ain't shit else that's good about the Browns. Their offense, Deshaun Watson stinks. Their offensive line is garbage. The Browns are one of the worst teams in football because of their offense. If there's a quarterback on the right, and I don't think they have a guy, right? I don't know who their backup is. If Joe Flacco was still there, I guarantee you their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, would be entertaining the thought of benching this because Deshaun Watson stinks. Man, does he stink. That offensive line is awful, but you got to give the Giants credit too. They were on their ass. Pause. I mean, they were getting to him. But that offensive line stinks. But Nabers is a problem. Cowgirls thought they had a chance, which made that L feel so good. And Carr is Carr. The 4 Carr is the 4 Carr, man. We gassed him up, right? I'm talking about with that premium. We gassed him up. Only for his ass to break down on the side of the road like he always does. The 4 Carr is the 4 Carr. Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I got nervous watching the Cowboys game. I got nervous. I'm sitting there because I told my dad before the game because I went home and I watched the game with my family today. And after the Eagles won and the Giants won, I said, you know what's going to happen, boss? I said, it's going to be a reversal of what happened last week. The Commanders were the only team to win in the division last week and everybody else lost. This week, everybody else going to win in the division. The Commanders going to lose. And he said, nah, I ain't trying to hear that. You ain't going to psych me up. We ain't beating the damn Ravens. I said, the only thing that makes me feel like you won't win is because of the level of desperation that the Ravens face. They understand that they can't fall to 0-3. 0-2 generally feels like a death sentence, but when you're a team like Baltimore or Cincinnati, it doesn't have to be. You fall to 0-3, I don't give a damn who you are. You fall to 0-3, your season's done. You're dead. Dead, I tell you. You can't fall to 0-3 and think you still going to have a shot. I don't give a damn. Like, the Steelers are 3-0. This ain't like a division where, oh, don't worry about it. The rest of the division sucks. You 0-3, but the number 1 team in the division 1-2. So you literally win game out of first place. That ain't what the Steelers got going on right now. The Steelers are 3-0. So by the time you figure some shit out at 0-3, they might be gone. They might have left your ass already. So that level of desperation led me to believe that while I think Dallas can win this game, the Ravens should. And they came out and they took it to them. But I told you that the Ravens are front runners and they don't handle adversity well. And did you see them try and piss that game away? They tried. But Lamar said, nah, not on my watch. He went Ayanla on us. Not on my watch. And I had said the possession before when they kept giving it to Derrick Henry. I'm like, I love the fact that they're feeding Derrick Henry because the Cowboys' run defense stinks. However, they're keying in on Derrick, and they haven't stopped Lamar yet. How about you put it in Lamar's or Derrick's belly, pull it out of his belly, and let Lamar run because they haven't stopped Lamar on the ground yet. And when they needed to have it on that second down, Lamar pulled that bitch out and took off up the middle, not on the perimeter, up the middle, got that first down, got down, and that was all she wrote. But I was like, boy, you guys make it tough. You make it tough on yourself for no reason, right? Caleb is in a tough spot. HTTC, let's go. Look, Caleb did toss the first touchdown pass of any of the rookie quarterbacks. He tossed 2 of them, as a matter of fact. It was not a pretty day for him. He had 2 interceptions, including a rough one, down by, I think he had one down by the goal line, I think. I got to watch that game because I didn't watch all of it. We watched the end of it. But He got beat up again, sacked a bunch of times again. He's going to have a rough go of it. You know, for as much as we thought they had already done to make him, to insulate him, right? To have him come into a great situation. Man, they feel like a team that had a #1 overall pick. While they have talent, they still got a long way to go. And, you know, and Caleb's got a long way to go. I think that's the thing that might be for some who just thought, oh, King Caleb, what Caleb can't do. You know, I think they're having an eye-opening experience. Like, hey, the dude's super talented, but he got some things to grow and develop and get better at. Like, he's got some deficiencies to his game. You know, what was funny to me is Rome Odunze caught Caleb's first ever touchdown pass as a pro, and it was also Rome Odunze's first touchdown catch as a pro. And Caleb's like, yo, give me the ball. And Rome was like, no, this my shit, bro. And how they gonna figure that one? I'm assuming a tie goes to the #1 overall pick star quarterback. But Rome's like, nah, bro, this my shit. I caught this. This is my first NFL touchdown, too. You can't have this ball. That's gonna be interesting because he was like, yo, give me the shit. And he was like, no, this mine. And then I got a kick out of that. They're gonna have to find a way to figure that shit out. That was funny. Anyway. Anti-Sully Social, or Anti-Social Sully, excuse me. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Anti-Social Sully, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, I need a Commanders win so this piss cup goes down smooth. What a tough year to predict. If you need a Commanders win so that the piss cup goes down smooth, it's going to be a rough piss cup for you, my friend, because they are not winning tonight. Is it? Yes, 12:30 a.m. on the East Coast. They are not winning this game. And I'm not going to allow you to go into this game expecting anything other than a loss. I've already told you, just go in here and ask the fellas to not embarrass you on the national stage. That's what you should be doing. That's what I'm doing. Like, hey, just don't embarrass me. I expect you to lose. Just don't go in here and lose by 3 touchdowns, right? Don't go in here and Joe Burrow's keying on the sidelines, you know, with 6 minutes and 46 seconds left in the fourth quarter with a ball cap on like it's a preseason game. Don't let that shit happen, right? Show some respect. Have some pride about yourself. Don't go on national television and show your ass. Act with class, okay? That's all I'm asking for the fellas to do. And I expect them to do that. This is a new group. If I'm telling you it is different, it feels different because it is different, this needs to be different. But I'm different, really different would be to go win this game. They're not going to do that. And I wouldn't recommend you rewiring your brain to think that. Just go in and look for them to show improvement, to not get blown out here, to be competitive. This is a hostile environment they're going into. The team that they're playing just as desperate can be. Did you see the Rams fight off 0-3? Do you know what you got to do to dig down deep to make sure you don't go 0-3? Because if you go 0-3, it's over. There's nothing where I've been a part of seasons like this. As a Commanders fan, obviously, the last 25 years have been hell. So I've had more than my fair share of these types of seasons. Do you know how tough it is to go through all of the waiting, right? To go through 6 months of waiting for ball, almost 7 months of waiting for football, to have your shit over in September. Before you get out the first month of the season, your shit is done. And people are already talking about the draft. And you got 4 more months of that shit. You know how hard that is? If you 0-3, your shit is over, bro, before it even gets started. You think the Bengals are really going to allow themselves to fall to 0-3? Shit is not happening, bro. But, hey, you can take that piss cup. It'll go down smooth, regardless. All right? It'll go down. You won't be alone. This was a rough week. I had built-in losses on my sheet, and then teams decided to do special shit like the 49ers decided to go be special and blow a double-digit fourth-quarter lead and lose the game. Like, I had teams go out of their way to be special to make sure that my sheet looked like shit. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. Seriously, you really going to do me like that? Arizona had 8 million chances to win their game, and they was like, nah, we good, man. Don't worry about it. it is what it is, right? The Browns had 9 million opportunities to beat the Giants. The Giants did not want to win that game. And the Browns was like, nah, we trash for real. Don't worry about it. Y'all better off taking this win and seeing what you can do with it than us taking it. What we going to do with it? We ain't shit. And we ain't going to be shit. So you take the dub. See what you can do with it. I'm now watching the Browns. I'm going to be disappointed if we don't beat them. I had that as a loss initially. I'm going to be disappointed if we don't beat them because right now, the division as a whole has 5 wins. Eagles have 2. Both the Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders all have 1. Of the 5 wins, the Browns are responsible for 2 of the 5 wins. If we don't beat them in week 5, because I don't expect us to win this game or against Arizona next week on the road. If we don't beat the Browns when we go back home in week 5, I'm going to be pissed off because the Browns suck. They stink. Craig Harrison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Craig writes, Skins got a whole serve tomorrow. Whole serve how? What are you talking about, Craig? Their D-line is down. What does that mean, Craig? Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig. What does that mean, Craig? Strong helping of the running game and bring the double tight end sets and control the top. D needs turnovers. Craig, you're setting too lofty of an expectation. You're setting yourself up to be upset tomorrow at 11:17 p.m. You're setting yourself up to be pissed off. And I told my sister, she's like, which one of the games tomorrow? It's a doubleheader. I was like, yeah, which one of those? I said, we the late one. We the one that starts at the original time. She said, oh, okay, cool. I should be out. I said, if you get there by 8:55, the game might be over by the time you show up. She's like, what you talking about? I said, we might be down by 3 touchdowns by then. Like, that's the mindset I'm going in with, is that I'm expecting the worst, but I'm hoping for the best because I'm asking nicely and I want it to be different. So I'm going to give them a chance to prove that it's different. But with the way that our defense has been playing, with T. Higgins coming back, this is supposed to be a coming out party for their offense. The only thing that might save us is if our offense can do what you said, which is run the football, maybe control a little bit of time possession, keep their offense off the field, and we got to score touchdowns because they're going to score touchdowns. They're not going to kick a bunch of field goals. So, hey, Craig. Lowered expectations. Lower them expectations down just a tad bit. Just a tad bit. Turn it down a little bit, Craig. Turn it down, Craig. Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig. Turn it down, Craig. Because you set yourself up to be disappointed tomorrow night. And I'm just trying to help you out. This ain't one of them games you go in and look, when I sit down in front of my television at 8:15 tomorrow night or tonight, I'm hoping we win. And you know, I'm gonna be talking that shit. But I'm a realist. I'm a realist. This ain't one of them ones, right? Next week, I don't think we're gonna win, but that's a much more realistic opportunity to go on the road and get one. The week after that against the Browns, you go home. That feels like a game that we can win. And there'll be a lot more of those on the schedule. The Panthers, the Bears, there's a lot of games on the schedule. The Titans, we had a lot of winnable games on the schedule, which is why I said, look around the NFC. Look around. Come on, you watched a lot of games today. Look around. Look at the scenery in the conference. San Francisco's 1-2. The Saints ain't what we thought they were. The Bucks ain't what we thought they were. Look around. That's some of the best of what the... Are you really, truly... If you're telling me Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings are the best of what this conference has to offer, are you telling me that we don't have a shot to at least compete to make the playoffs? Why not us? That's what I've been saying. Why not us? Trust me, the version of this team that you're seeing now isn't going to be the version of this team that you're going to see 8 weeks from now. We're going to be a much better team. A much better team. That's why I said I'm so glad those NFC East games are backloaded on the schedule. Don't want to play those right now. We're not ready for those. Let us get our shit together. And then we'll see these teams in week 10 and 11 and 12. We'll be ready by then. The Giants is the only team that we were capable of handling this early because we still ain't figured a lot of shit out. Craig Harrison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Caleb Williams, absolute trash buns, garbage. He's flipping awful. I wouldn't go that far. He's young. He's young. Young quarterbacks make mistakes. He's young. He gave them a chance in that game today. Took a beating and hung in there, threw a couple of touchdown passes, one late that got them within one score. He's competing. It's going to be tough on him because that Bears team isn't as good as a lot of people projected them to be from a talent standpoint. But he's got some stuff to figure out. They've got some things to figure out, but he's competing. You know, I hate the way that fans view young prospects, young players, because today in society, we don't give guys a chance at all. If a lot of these quarterbacks back in the day played in today's, they would have never made it. Troy Aikman was awful in his first year in the NFL. He stunk. You know, we would have cast him off, said he was trash. He can't play. Get rid of him. And so many other quarterbacks fit into that narrative that weren't very good. Hell, if Peyton Manning would have done what he did back in 98, now 28 interceptions in your rookie. What? Oh, shit. We would have threw Peyton Manning ass under the goddamn bus and ran over him 50 million times to tell about how garbage he was. People have zero patience for development and allowing these players to get better. We want instant gratification. I don't think Caleb Williams is as bad as you say he is. I just don't believe that. Just think he's young. And with young quarterbacks come mistakes. Do I think we got the better of the quarterbacks for this year? Yeah. But I said that when we drafted Jaden Daniels. I said he's got the highest floor of all the quarterbacks. His ceiling is not higher than Caleb Williams. His ceiling is not higher to me than that of Drake May, but his floor is. He's going to be a good quarterback in this league. I can't guarantee you that Caleb Williams or Drake May is going to be great quarterbacks in this league. I can tell you that Jaden is going to be at least good. I don't know if he'll be great, but he won't fail. I know that much. So in year one, I expect him to be better than those guys. Will he be better than them in year 4 or 5? I don't know. We'll see. But don't be so hasty to, talk about this quarterback's trash, this guy's this guy's that. Because it's tough, man. The NFL is tough. The NFL is tough. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. GT7. Right. One more thing. How did the Niners lose? Boy, they choked at the end of that game. First of all, whenever Debo doesn't play, bad shit happens to them at end of ball games, it feels like. Last year, Debo didn't play in 2 games, didn't finish 1. They lost all 3. This one felt a lot like that Browns game that Debo got hurt in last year, where he didn't finish. Jake Moody had a chance to make a game-winning field goal. He missed. They lost. Jake Moody had a chance to make a field goal in this game to put the Rams away. He missed. The Rams went down, got a touchdown, tied the game. Brock Purdy couldn't get a first down. They had to punt. The Rams got a big-ass punt return on the ensuing punt and kicked a walk-off field goal, essentially. It was 2 seconds left when they made the field goal. But the 49ers were up. I mean, they left. The Rams were left for dead. It was 24-7. They were left for dead in the game. And somehow the 49ers managed to blow a 17-point lead, essentially in the fourth quarter. Essentially blew a 17-point lead. And it was a damn shame because matter of fact, I think it was 24-14. I think it was. I don't know if it was ever 24-7. I think it was 24-14. But it's a damn shame because Jawan Jennings had a career day. He killed them. 3 touchdowns, probably like 13 catches, like 170 or 80 some odd yards. He crushed them, and his day got spoiled because the defense went to hell in a handbag. His special teams fell the hell apart, and they lost the game. Unbelievable. With no Cooper Kupp, with no Puka Nacua, they let the Rams beat them. But that's what happens when they don't have Deebo Samuel. I can't explain the shit. I can't make it up. So, yeah, they blew that game. Unbelievable. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, Lou, Sonny, I'm mother effing ready for tomorrow, homeboy. Let's get a quick 60-second runoff on how we going to win tomorrow, big dog. Let's get it. I don't have nothing for you. I mean, I'm gonna put out a show tomorrow morning, which will give you the keys to victory. So I'm not gonna do that here, but I mean, there's a path to victory, but they got to follow that path to a T. And I just don't know if we're ready for that type of execution and discipline. We are one of the least disciplined teams right now. And I think the Ravens. Was it the Ravens? Who had like 12? I think the Ravens had like 12 penalties. I've seen a lot of teams with a lot of penalties today. You know what else I saw a lot of today too that made me feel better? Like the Saints, 3rd and 16, and they crash into each other on a simple crossing route. And so I'm like, okay, so we ain't the only team doing stupid shit on 3rd down, running into each other and setting picks on ourselves and allowing big ass plays to happen when it shouldn't. I said, you know what? Kyle Pitts touchdown or near touchdown, wide ass open. I saw another play. What game was it where I was watching where they got confused and guy was wide open for a touchdown? I said, you know what? We ain't the only team out here doing dumb shit. A lot of teams out here crossing up coverages, mixing up shit. The Chiefs did it tonight. That's what it was. You know, they faked the little bubble screen. Both the dudes come crashing down. Guy go up the sideline, easy touchdown. You just like, yo, really? That's what's all on? Yeah. So we're not the only teams out here, only team out here doing dumb shit. But it's going to take a lot for us to win against the Bengals. And it's not all going to be our doing. They're going to have to help us. They're probably going to have to help us. But I'll take any help we can get, right? We'll see what happens. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I got to ask the question again, Lou. When we going up top in Cincy? Look, man, I'm still waiting for it. I ain't seen it. We tried one time. That was it. One time. I expect Jalen to tell everyone he has arrived. This is the stage to do it. We ain't going to get many of these opportunities this year. We got one more primetime game this season against the Eagles later on down the line. He'll be more prepared by then. But this is a chance, right? He's started better than any of the other rookies. Bo Nix had himself a good day. First time he didn't turn it over. His team won. I don't think that's an accident, right? Denver's defense has played well enough for them to be 3-0 right now. Problem is, Bo Nix has turned it over twice in each of the first 2 games. Didn't turn it over. They go over to Tampa and they win. I don't think that's a coincidence. He's starting to figure out what is required of him to help his team win. Caleb Williams threw 2 touchdown passes in the loss, but, you know, he's starting to kind of figure some shit out, right? He's, 2 games in a row where he's turned it over. Didn't turn it over in the first game. What they do? They won, right? In the 2 games since, he's turned it over. They lost. So the formula is don't turn it over. Don't turn it over, right? Now, Jaden has that part. Right? He understands how to protect the ball, this, that. But you got to make some plays too. And he's capable of doing that. He's capable of doing it. Now we just got to see it. And I want everybody else to see it too. Junior Nando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Junior writes, what do you think of Malik Willis? I was so happy for him. And I saw the game ball speech he got in the locker room. I was so happy for Malik, man. How he got done up in Tennessee was a little, rough. I understand from the Titans' perspective why they did what they did, but it was rough, right? He didn't look good in Tennessee when he got to play against the Texans. And I don't think he was ready. He even said he wasn't ready when he got his opportunities in Tennessee. He wasn't ready. And so he goes to Green Bay. He just got there not too long ago. Didn't think he would have to play. They just had him as an insurance policy, and they didn't know they were going to have to collect on that insurance policy 1 week into the season, essentially. But that's exactly what happened. He played solid within himself. Great game plan in week 2 against Indianapolis. But this one meant a lot to him, right? This one meant a lot to him. And for him to go out and play the way that he did and do the things that he did, I was really proud of him, man. Happy for him, and that was a big win. And that team culture that the Packers have cultivated there, that environment of they don't have any superstars, but they got a bunch of guys that kind of show up, hard hat, lunch pail, thermos, and they go to work and they punch the clock and they find a way to get it done. Malik Willis kind of embodies that, just got there, show up, do whatever it takes. So, happy for him to not turn it over, use his legs, high percentage throws. He took it up a notch from, last week where they literally asked him to do the bare minimum. This week, he threw the football a little bit. And he didn't look half bad doing it. Good for him. That Packers team can be dangerous. They got a chance because they're confident. And they're showing that no matter who's at quarterback, we're confident. Obviously, you're much better off with Jordan Love, but Willis brings some things that Love doesn't, because Willis will take off on your ass, right? Love ain't really trying to do that. He ain't about that life for real. He can, but that ain't what he want to do. Malik taking off on your ass. And that's the same shit with Justin Fields in Pittsburgh. Like, he adds a different dimension and element. On 3rd and 6, Justin Fields to take off on your ass. Russell Wilson ain't doing that. They scored their first touchdown of the day, did the Steelers, on read option, where he kept it and scored. Like, Russell Wilson ain't doing that shit. And so, hey, Malik Willis is out here getting it done, man. Good for him. Good for him. Craig Harrison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Craig writes, Dan Snyder is gone. Facts. You got some Stockholm syndrome, PTSD shit going on. Yeah, yes and no. Not really, though. This is what I think of Cincinnati. This is what I think of what I've seen, right? Like, I watched the defense the first 2 weeks. You watched the defense the first 2 weeks. What would lead you to believe that we're not about to allow either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase to go apeshit in this game? When's the last time we stopped an A-plus receiver from having a whale of a ball game? When's the last time we've done that? And forget about Snyder. When's the last time Malik Nabers went off on us last week? Slam off in week 2. I don't think did any receiver have 100 in the Bucks game, but Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. Made it look easy. Chris Godwin caught every 3rd down pass known to mankind in week 1. What's leading you to believe that that's not going to happen in this game? That has nothing to do with PTSD. It's just what I've watched through 2 weeks of football, knowing the desperation that the Bengals will have, knowing that they're comfortable in this space. They've been 0-2 like 4 out of the last 5 years. They know this spot well, and they're not uncomfortable being uncomfortable here. Stand up, stand proud, take advantage of the quarterback who's making great decisions. And I think he can continue to do that. That's a good Bengals defense that he'll be playing, though. Really good. Made Mahomes look real pedestrian last week. We'll see. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. But doesn't feel like it. Before the season started, I said this will be one of those games where, because I thought the defense was going to be good. Remember, I thought the defense was going to be the catalyst for this team, especially early. This is one of those games that I thought, damn, Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., they're going to cook up some crap on a Monday night. We're going to lose the game, but we're going to be in that bitch with a chance to win. After seeing this defense the first 2 weeks, ain't no way in hell you can convince me that we're going to be in this game in the fourth quarter with a chance to win. Don't see it. I'll be shocked if that comes to fruition. Be shocked. But if it does happen, it'll happen because it feels different, because it is different. But the defense doesn't feel different right now. Feels like the same shit that we've been going through. And I told you, I think it's going to get better. And I think they're going to iron out the kinks as we go through this season and they figure out what guys can do what and who needs to play and who doesn't. They'll figure out something and we'll get better defensively. But it doesn't feel like that's happening right now, right? It's going to take some time. Baron Von Monkey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Baron Von Monkey writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Baron? Hope all is well with you and yours, likewise. I'm going to my first NFL game Monday night. Can't wait to bring home the dub for the good guys. You're the second person that told me. I didn't think we would have, we didn't have, a ton of representation. I didn't think there would be any contingency, let alone a large one of Commanders fans at this game. I still don't, but that's 2 more names than I expected to hear. Hey, I'm going to Monday night's game. It's 2 more names than what I was expecting to hear. So you know the mission, Baron. All right. It's a covert op. Okay. So I'm not going to get into the specifics nor the details, but you know what you must do. In your email, you will find a detailed briefing, an outline of what must be done. But above all else, you know what to do. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lang Hughes writes, need JD, B-Rob, and Eck to look like L. Jack and Henry tomorrow. You never know, right? You never know. They've had their fair share of troubles with Lamar Jackson over the years. I don't want Jaden to have to run as much. I like the threat of his legs existing. I don't necessarily want his legs to be, the reason why we're in the game. But if they have to be, I'm not opposed to it. But if he can spread the ball around and get the playmakers involved, I wouldn't see that happen first. And then if shit breaks down or they have a called run and the Bengals start to try to key in on our running backs, because I think we can run the ball on these chumps. Then he's got to pull it out and take off, then do it, right? But tomorrow's going to be fun, or tonight's going to be fun. If nothing else, I'm going to enjoy seeing the fellas on this stage with an opportunity to go out and prove people like myself wrong. You do realize that we were the biggest underdogs. We talked about this, I think, already on the CNN. We're the biggest underdogs on the week 3 slate, which was kind of mind-boggling because I looked at some of these games and I was like, you think we're going to lose by more than this team or that team or that team? Dolphins at Seattle with no Tua Tagovailoa, with Skylar Thompson? You don't think we're going to have a better shot to win than them? And they was like, nah. And I was like, you're probably right. But still, that didn't stop me from feeling disrespected. That didn't stop me from feeling 8.5-point underdogs at one point. I think it's 7.5 now. No other team had a more than a 6. We're more than 6-point favorites. I was like, damn, we not 0-2. We 1-1. It was like, I won't care. I was like, all right, bet. I get it. I don't have to like it, but I get it. It'd be nice if they looked like that. Derrick Henry was a beast today or yesterday. Lamar Jackson was a beast. And when they had to have it, he went and got it. It'd be nice if our guys looked like that. They're capable of doing it. They're capable. We'll see what happens. Craig Harrison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Craig, writes, when I say I told you so, make sure you got me tomorrow. Look, If you say you told me so, that's because we won. Bro, I will be so happy to be wrong and to admit it. I want to be wrong. Make me wrong here. Please. Please. My ego is not inflated to where I want to be right at the expense of my team. I want to be wrong here. Please, Craig, come back and tell me I was wrong. Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig. Get up, Craig. Come on, Craig. Be right. We always play the Bengals tough. The last game was a tie. Different set of circumstances. Now, if this game were in Washington, I'd feel a lot differently. We're 1-3 versus the Bengals on the road. 1-3. This is not a great spot. It's not a great spot. He says, I'll expect the clout tomorrow. It's happening. Okay. I for your sake, I hope you're right. Not that I'm gonna point the finger at you and chastise you and wave my finger at you if you're wrong, because I'm not gonna do that. I hope you're right, though. I hope you're right. Baron Von Monkey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Really appreciate you. See how it goes. See how tomorrow goes, right? Or today, rather. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. Chiefs get it done, 22-17, remain unbeaten on the season. Falcons had their chances in this game. They had their shot, multiple shots. Couldn't get it done, including a 4th and 1 where they were stopped, which pretty much put an exclamation point and slammed the door shut on this Chiefs victory. But I still think the Falcons are the best team in their division, and when they figure out how to use all of the offensive weapons that they have, you could argue pound for pound, they have the most talent on offense in the NFC. When you look at the combination of Mooney and Drake London at receiver with Pitts at tight end and Bijan Robinson, and don't sleep on the BYU running back out of the backfield. I just think there's an abundance of talent there, and they're not getting the most out of those players right now. And so they got to figure that out, whatever that looks like. They got to figure it out. But when they do, they have a chance to be dangerous on offense. And I think their defense is playing well enough, similar to what I felt about Denver these first 3 weeks. Their defense has played well enough for them to be 3-0 right now. Unfortunately, the offense has played, at a 1-2 clip. Same thing can be said for Denver, right? So see if they figure it out at some point. But another opportunity awaits them next week. But this is one of those ones you lament. Like, we had our chances if you're the Falcons. JLG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what a great day of football. I have to admit, you were right about the Browns. Their offense is a joke. I told you. I'm watching these games, man. I told you. Now, by the time we get to them in week 5, I hope we get our, pass rushing shit together, because Deshaun Watson stinks. But guess what? If you sit back there and you give him time, or you let him run, he'll beat you. He'll beat you. Ask the Jaguars. They'll score 18 and beat you. But he's ass. And that offensive line is trash. And they didn't have David Njoku. That didn't help. And like I always say, by the time they get to us, David Njoku will be back from that ankle injury, because that's how it always happens. Players don't play until they get to us. And all of a sudden, everybody's healthy and ready to go against us. But their offense is terrible. And their defense, they forced a turnover on the opening kickoff of the game and scored on the first offensive snap. They scored a touchdown in 11 seconds. Did the Browns. it took them until probably 8-9 minutes left in the fourth quarter to score again. Let that shit sink in. The Giants, who did not force Washington to punt a single time last week, held these clowns without a single point from the first 11 seconds of the game all the way until the 11-minute mark or so, I think. Dustin Hopkins missed a 53-yard field goal. They hyped him up. I said, they put the announcer jinx on his ass. He said, Dustin Hopkins has made his last 13 field goals from 50 yards and beyond. I said, oh, shit. Well, he finna miss this bitch then. And what'd he do? I said, that's the Dustin Hopkins I know. That's the D-Hop I knew in Washington right there. Anyway, it was fun. It's always fun when you get – next week will be fun too because we'll get to watch all the 1 o'clock games because we don't play till 4 o'clock next week. It's always fun when we get to watch all the games, and we'll get to do that again next week. We'll get to do the same thing again next week. So looking forward to it. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of Sunday Night Football Overtime. So we will be back. We will be back tomorrow. I will have a fresh episode of CNN. Our last look at the Bengals. I will give you my keys to victory and all the things that need to be done in order for us to have a chance to win. So be on the lookout for that first thing in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning. That'll be released. And then obviously after the game has met its conclusion, we will be live. It's a doubleheader. So I may talk about both games, but I know most of you will be there for the Washington game. But it is a doubleheader, so I will be talking about both games. But most of the time will be spent on the Commanders game for sure. So look forward to chopping it up for you guys with you guys then. But until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Monday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader style. Bang, bang. Till then, take care, God bless, and good night.